I just stopped there without completing the question paper discussion of 2016 question paper because of some technical errors. I'm back. Now we can look at the answers of the remaining paragraph questions of this question paper. Question number 14. Write a note on the educational development in post-independent India. You might have got lots of things to write this paragraph, but just remember that this is only a paragraph, not an essay question. The development of education in the independent India started with the forming of a commission under the chairmanship of Dr. S. Radhakrishnan. And Indian Constitution played a vital role in the educational development in the post-independent era in India. Indian Constitution declared Article 45 as a part of directive principles, which tell that all the children between 6 and 14 should be given education within 10 years after the implementation of this constitution. By following this concept, by following this article, this directive principle, all the governments during different eras introduced so many schemes and programs for ensuring that education, elementary education, is given to all the children between 6 and 14 years. Different commissions were formed during different eras by different governments. And the recommendations of such commissions played great role in the development of education in India. The first commission was under the chairmanship of S. Radhakrishnan. S. Radhakrishnan Commission put forth so many recommendations, such as education should give importance to the preamble of our constitution. Higher education should be arranged in a manner by which the standard of higher education can be ensured, could be ensured. There should be researchers. There should be facilities for researchers. And UGC should be formed for providing funds for universities and colleges. As a result, so many actions were taken by the government, and UGC was formed in 1953. In 1956, UGC was made a statutory body. In 1952, Mudaliar Commission was formed, and the commission also recommended so many things which contributed much for the development of education in India. The most important recommendations of Kothari Commission were three-language formula, guidance and counseling in educational system, changes to be made in the evaluation process, changes to be made in the structure of education, etc. All these recommendations also were creating some atmosphere for the educational development in India. Then came the famous Kothari Commission in 1964, and it submitted its report in 1966. It recommended that education, the aims of education should be increasing productivity, enhancing modernity, cultivating democratic values, etc. It recommended a modified three-language formula, school complex, adult education, functional literacy, and many such outstanding recommendations. As a result, in 1968, the then Indira Gandhi government declared a national policy. As it was not very successful, in 1986, following the recommendations of Kothari Commission, Rajiv Gandhi government declared a new educational policy which is known as NEP of 1986, new policy, NPE of 1986, new policy on education of 1986. It was a milestone in the history of Indian education. It declared so many projects such as Operation Blackboard, Navodaya School, adult education, functional literacy, Mahila Samakya program, delinking jobs from degrees, etc. All these declarations were capable of creating so many changes in the field of education. In 2001, Vajpayee government declared SSA, Sarva Shiksha Abhiyan. It also was something which contributed to the development of education in India. In 2005, Manmohan Singh government appointed Knowledge Commission. And Manmohan Singh told that the recommendations given by Knowledge Commission report would be something which would help us to face the challenges of 21st century. As a result of the first recommendation of this Knowledge Commission, the famous Right to Education India Act was passed in the Parliament in 2009 and it came to effect in 2010. It is known as the Right to Education Act of 2009-10. This Right to Education Act also paved the way for great development in the field of education in India. So you can just write the paragraph just like this. You can add more points if you have got any. Briefly explain the concepts of liberalization and privatization. Liberalization and privatization are two of the major international movements in the modern era. Liberalization is the process of decreasing the rules and regulations for exporting and importing from and to different countries. And this one created lots of changes in the world, because in the past people were not able to import in an easy manner, or people were not able to export in an easy manner. But after the emergence of liberalization, now anyone can import anything from any country, and anyone can export anything to any country without much complications. And this one has got merits and demerits, because nowadays the farmers from your country can export their items easily to any other country and get more foreign money, and this foreign money will be a part of your economic development of your country. Moreover, nowadays students can go abroad for getting admitted in foreign universities without any complications, because visa rules have become more flexible and user friendly, or uh, people friendly. And similarly, the educational institutions of Western countries, so the developed countries can start their branches in underdeveloped countries, which will give some opportunities for the students of underdeveloped countries to get some standard education, which are given to the students who belong to the developed countries. There are demerits too. The emergence of multinational companies have created so many problems for small scale businesses. And cultural invasion is there. The Western culture or the European culture started killing or shallowing the culture of the Eastern countries. Privatization is another movement which occur all over the world. Privatization is the process of shifting the sectors which were traditionally controlled only by governments to the jurisdiction of private people and agencies too. For example, health and education. In the past, health and education were controlled only by governments, but nowadays, as a part of privatization, private people and private agencies also have starting hospitals and educational institutions. It also has got some merits. After the emergence of privatization, lots of educational institutions are there. It reduces the burden of government, because governments cannot establish more institutions, and it provides higher educational opportunities to more people, because government's duty is to give free and compulsory education till the end of elementary stage, and more facilities are available because of this privatization of educational institutions. And teachers seem to be regular in private institutions, because private teachers are not given any government duties. It has got so many demerits too. The most important demerit is that education has become an economic good. Nowadays, no one sees education as a service. The authorities of educational institutions see education as an economic good by which they can get thousands of rupees. Another demerit is that degeneration of quality in the case of education. Because now if you have got some money, you can get admitted, or you can get your child admitted in medical colleges and engineering colleges even without much talent or merit. And the people who come out of the institutions after completing these courses by passing the examinations through some maladjustments will be creating so many problems in the medical and in engineering field. Moreover, the professional ethics in the field of medicine, engineering, and such education, etc., are getting degenerated nowadays. Because after completing the medicine course, the person's sole intention will be to get back whatever his parents spent for his education. So everything becomes economic. No service, no humanity, no social commitment can be seen any field, and this is the result of privatization in the field of education and health. So I think this is enough for this paragraph question. This is the recommendations of Kothari Commission Report. In 1964, a commission under the chairmanship of Dr. S. Kothari was formed, and they submitted their report in 1966. So it is known as Kothari Commission Report of 1964-66. The first recommendation was related to the aims of education. According to Kothari Commission, the following five aspects should be the aims of education. They are increasing productivity, social and national integration, strengthening democracy, accelerating modernization, and cultivation of values. As a country which has got independence recently, India should give more importance to increasing productivity, because only by increasing productivity we can develop. Similarly, India is a country of social diversity. So education should aim at the social and national integration through multilingual education and such things. India has got independence, and now India is a democratic country, so education should aim at cultivating the democratic values such as dignity of individual, liberty, fraternity, and equality among the youngsters who are going to become the citizens of tomorrow. And now we have reached the modern age, so education should create some modern people through proper modernization process. Then, even when there is modernization and or professionalization, educational institutions should not forget cultivation of traditional values such as honesty, simplicity, tolerance, and non-violence. So these should be the aims of education according to Kothari Commission. Then it recommended 10 plus 2 plus 3 structure for educational institutions all over the world. According to Kothari Commission, there should be a common system of education, and it should be 10 plus 2 plus 3. Another important recommendation of Kothari Commission was educational institutions should make the students able to use their vacations in an effective manner. So there should be some vacation courses and training for teachers and students according to Kothari Commission. Then another great recommendation of Kothari Commission was implementation of school complexes. School complex is a concept of building a network among the schools situated within the distance of 15 kilometers by sharing the resources mutually among them. For example, if a high school has got laboratory and another school within their 15 kilometers hasn't got the science laboratory, then the school which hasn't got laboratory should also be allowed to make use the laboratory in the other school. So sharing the resources among different schools at a particular area so that to ensure that government resources are or public resources are utilized in an optimum level. Then another recommendation of Kothari Commission was to increase the teacher's status. According to Kothari Commission, if you want to increase the quality of education or enhance the quality of education, you should give better remuneration to teachers. Then only brilliant people will come to the teaching profession. Then he also told about the importance of taking necessary actions for giving education to scheduled caste, tribes, and weaker sections of society. Another great recommendation of Kothari Commission was implementation of adult education. According to him, people between 18 and 35, most of the people between 18 and 35 in India are uneducated. So there should be special literacy programs, so adult education programs for providing education to these people too. One of the greatest recommendation of Kothari Commission was three-language formula, a modified version of three-language formula. And this three-language formula put forth the idea of teaching three languages. Students who belong to Hindi-speaking states should learn Hindi as their mother tongue and English and any other modern Indian language. While students who belong to non-Hindi speaking states should learn mother tongue, Hindi and English. Another recommendation was that there should be modern methods for teaching in educational institutions so that to reduce wastage and stagnation. He also mentioned the commission also mentioned the importance of eradicating wastage and stagnation as much as possible by eradicating poverty, by enhancing the facilities at educational institutions, by giving training to teachers so that to make them make use of a variety of interesting methodologies inside the classroom, etc. So these are the major recommendations of Kothari Commission, and all these recommendations were declared as the elements of the national policy of education declared by the Rajiv Gandhi government in 1986. The policy declared that they would implement Operation Blackboard, Navodaya schools, adult education, Mahila Samakya program, so and so. So this Kothari Commission report was one of the milestones in the history of Indian education. Now, 17th question, write a paragraph on Vedic education. So this is a paragraph question, so there is no need for explaining each and everything in an elaborated manner. You can just give 2 or 3 sentences for each point. Vedic education is the educational system prevailed during the Vedic period in India. Vedic period can be divided into 2 as early Vedic period and later Vedic period. During the early Vedic period, there was no stratification, social stratification, so all the people were given education. During the later Vedic period, there was social stratification and it's known as Brahmanic period because Brahmins were Brahmins had got prominence. So we are always discussing Brahmanic education as Vedic education. The aims of education during Vedic period were different. The most important aim of education was to make the people able to reach moksha, capable of reaching moksha. Other aims of education were cultivating dharma in all the people so that to make them reach moksha by practicing dharma in all the walks of life. Another aim of education was to make the people able to earn artha, that is worldly wealth, during the grihasthyashrama stage of life, that is family life. And another aim of education was to make the people capable of enjoying their kama, that is worldly pleasure in their life. Then character development was one of the most important aim of education during the Vedic period. Another aim of education was attainment of as much knowledge as possible because Vedic age itself means age of knowledge. Then there was an initial ceremony for starting education during Vedic period called Upanayana ceremony. When the Brahmin child becomes 8 years old, Kshatriya child becomes 11 years old, and Vaishya child becomes 12 years old, Upanayana ceremony occurs. The child would take bath, wear saffron cloth and sacred thread, come to the Gurukula of the teacher, sit before the teacher and recite Saraswati mantra after the teacher recites it. The system of education during Vedic period was Gurukula system. That is the residence of the teacher. It was a single teacher and multi-student educational system. The teacher and the wife of the teacher were considered as the second father and mother of the students. The students had to serve the teacher and the wife of the teacher. They had to wake up at 5 o'clock, clean the room and the surroundings of the teacher, bring water for the wife of the teacher, and help the wife of the teacher in preparing food and other works. They had to beg alms so that to fight or so that to meet the livelihood for the teacher and themselves. The teacher-student relationship was something sacred. The methods of teaching used during Vedic period were oral. There was something called manana, shravana, manana, and nitityasana. The teacher would recite the verses. The students will listen first. After that, they would by heart whatever they recited. Then, during the stage of nididhyasana, they will think deeply about whatever they had already by hearted. And during the Vedic period, education was given in Sanskrit. That is, the medium of instruction was Sanskrit. So most of the people tell that the Shudras were not given education because the language of the common people was Pali and the Sanskrit was the language of the elite people. So education was given only to the elite people of the society. This is something about Vedic education. Explain culturally responsive pedagogy. Culturally responsive pedagogy is the teaching strategies used in a diversified classroom by giving due regard to the cultural aspects of each and every child of that classroom. India is a multicultural society, and a classroom would be a center of or a miniature of multicultural society. In a classroom, you can see students from different cultural backgrounds. So you cannot accept or you cannot use a single method, a general method for teaching the items in your classroom. So you should give due regard to the cultural aspects of each student. For example, language is a part of culture. You can see that in your classroom, there will be students from different linguistic backgrounds or who are speaking different dialects. And when you teach something, you have to explain that particular item in different dialects spoken by the students of your classroom. And sometimes you may be teaching some literary items in your classroom. Then you should mention the literary items related to the cultural backgrounds of different students of your classroom, so that to make them compare the literary item which you are teaching inside the classroom and the literary items they keep at their locality. And teachers should give an opportunity for each student to speak on some topic in their own dialects. That is, teachers should not accept deficit theory. Teachers should avoid or teachers should not follow deficit theory. According to deficit theory, students from economically and socially backward communities cannot learn a foreign language in a better manner, just like other students learn. But Rebecca Eller and such people were against this theory, and they thought that if you allow your students to speak in their own dialects, they can speak better than the brilliant students of your classroom about any topic. So you should give opportunities to the students to speak in their mother tongue or in their dialects, and gradually you can make them able to speak in the standard language. And when you teach a foreign language and when you want to tell about a particular usage by mentioning the usage of the mother tongue, you should mention all the varieties in different dialects. For example, if you teach has, then you can tell has is used for something like വന്നിട്ടുണ്ട് പോയിട്ടുണ്ട്. And if there are some students from Vadagara, then you have to tell has or have is used for telling something like വന്നിക്ക് പോയിക്ക്. And if you are teaching this one to the students from some parts of Kannur, then you have to tell has is used for telling something like വന്നിന് പോയിന്. So you should use different varieties of the mother tongue in your classroom as a part of culturally responsive pedagogy. So this is what is culturally responsive pedagogy. You have to consider the cultural aspects of all the students, the cultural backgrounds of all the students in your classroom when you are teaching any subject in your classroom. Question number 19. Suggest any 5 strategies to attain harmonious living in a diversified society. I have discussed this question in another question paper discussion. So you please see that video if you haven't yet seen that video, right? What do you mean by Naithalim? Is it relevant today? Substantiate your answer. Naithalim means education and work are not separate. Mahatma Gandhi's educational system or scheme is often known as Naithalim. Before that, we have to go back to learn about the concepts put forth by Mahatma Gandhi. In 1937, Mahatma Gandhi published lots of articles or a series of articles in Harijan. And he expressed his thoughts on education through these articles. And people found that those ideas were something innovative and relevant. As a result, Indian National Congress organized a conference under the chairmanship of Mahatma Gandhi himself. And the conference assigned the duty of studying about the concepts of Mahatma Gandhi to a committee under the chairmanship of Dr. Zakir Hussain. The conference was held at Wada. So the scheme of education put forth by Zakir Hussain committee was called or is called Wada scheme of education. This scheme of education is also known as Naithalim because Mahatma Gandhi was giving importance to basic education and craft-centered education in his articles. Mahatma Gandhi told that all the children should get self-sufficiency by the time they complete their elementary education. For the realization of this concept or this aim, there should be craft-centered education. Craft-centered education is the educational system where a local craft also is taught together with the formal educational system. According to Mahatma Gandhi, one of the most important aims of education is to make an individual self-sufficient and self-reliant. For that, you should integrate a work with formal education. This is significant even today. Mahatma Gandhi was telling about the local crafts such as pot making, embroidery, then weaving, and so and so. But nowadays we can accept the relevant vocations or relevant works to our age or our era. If a person is not able to work, or if a person is not able to stand on his own feet even after completing some level of education, it is something pathetic. So this is relevant even today. But we have to make a systematic plan. And this one is there in European countries. Actually, in our country, the dissertation works are done only for the sake of doing some dissertation. But in America, it is different. Mark Zuckerberg, the CEO of Facebook, launched his app called Facebook as a part of his dissertation when he was doing some course in a university in America. This is what was put forth by Mahatma Gandhi through craft-centered education. So people believe that it is the craft-centered, the concept of Naithalim is still significant. And nowadays you can see placement at colleges, and this placement at colleges is the modern version of craft-centered education, or the concept of Naithalim put forth by Mahatma Gandhi, right? So all the paragraph questions included in this question paper, that is the 2016 question paper, also have been mentioned. So I will be back with one more question paper of 2015. Till then, thank you very much.